Good evening, BSTARS, Breastfeeding Sisters that are receiving support. My name is Tiana Piles. I am one of the co-founders of BSTARS, and we are joined with a special guest and wonderful friends and sisters in support. I will turn over in just a moment. I'm so glad that you all are with us. How are y'all doing this evening? I'm seeing the waves. Hello, JoJo. Hello, Dimple Bandit. Thank y'all for joining us. I definitely appreciate you. Nephew and son. All right, so we have some male people, some men turning in as well. So I would like to introduce Dr. Flora Ukoli from Meharry Medical College. And so she is going to be talking to us about it takes a village to support our breastfeeding sisters. And so I'm going to hold us here on Instagram and I will turn it over to Flora so she can we're going to have a really great conversation. And let me get that because we need that in order for it to work. So let me turn this around for you. Okay. And one moment. Thank you. Technical things, technical things. We should be good to go. There, so that doesn't happen anymore. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. So when we say a village, we really mean a village, everybody. The government, the hospital, the family, the employers, everybody takes a village to help a mother breastfeed. If any one of these links is not there, then it becomes a little bit more difficult. Now, if you think about it, say we go back 100 years, or even 50 years. I'm just going to go back to my mother. When my mother gave birth to my first brother in 1936, she was breastfeeding. That was natural. Everybody around her breastfed. But some people brought something called cow and gate, oyster milk, whatever it was. They said it was baby food. And they brought this milk as far back as 1936 in the villages and towns way back in Africa. They brought baby food, formula, and it was provided free. They gave it to the doctors, they gave it to the nurses, they gave it to the mothers. And according to my mother, because she told me this story when I started doing breastfeeding promotion in 1991, and she was telling me what happened in 1936. She said many of the mothers tasted the milk and it didn't taste like breast milk. And they felt that this cannot be breast milk. But because they were told that this was good for the baby, they decided to drink it and breastfeed the baby. So most of the mothers were mixed. That's what my mother told me she did. She said she did not believe that this thing in the can was better than her milk. So she would mix it because they said it was good. She would drink it and they continued breastfeeding their babies. So, but subsequently, breastfeeding became something that was looked at as if it's for primitive women, while educated women didn't breastfeed. It sort of somehow that became what it was. So the women who went to school or the ones who were married to men who worked in offices, they were the ones that were no longer breastfeeding. They were using formula and they were using the bottles and they had all this fancy bag and the baby bottle and the baby teeth. And now the village woman was, oh, I am so poor, I can't do this, I will breastfeed. Somehow it became a status symbol. But that is what happened in Africa. Here in the US, I'm not sure I know how it happened, but what we hear is formula became the in thing, and that if we go back 100 years, rich people, women did not want to breastfeed their own baby. They looked for a wet nurse to breastfeed their own baby. So, which means they knew that breast milk was good. They knew that breast milk from all the women are the same. Poor woman, rich woman, black woman, white woman, breast milk is the same. They knew, but they didn't want to sit down to do the job. So they delegated it to somebody else. But now we Today, we want to breastfeed, but do we have the time?
Hmm.
The problem now is the time. Now, I can again go back to myself. When I had my first baby, I knew I wanted to breastfeed. And I worked in a teaching hospital where I can go late to work. Everybody knew I had a baby. Everybody was like being so nice to me. I can come late to work. I even took my baby to my office. Nobody yelled at me. I
Wow.
was breastfeeding.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Then the official paid full maternity leave was 3 months. Subsequently became 6 months. So mothers who were having their babies after me were getting 6 months.
Hmm.
But there was something else that we did in the hospital, which is part of what we were told to do to support women who were in that teaching hospital,
Mm-hmm.
was to expand our daycare. Because I'm sure here in the US also, daycares tend to say they want the potty trained baby, they want the 1 year old baby, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We had to expand our daycare to accept 3, 4, 5, 6 month old babies
Mm.
so that the mother can come to work and breastfeed whenever she wanted. The daycare was right there on campus.
Wow.
So that is what I would say employers are supposed to be doing, organizing daycares in the work location so that women can easily breastfeed even when they're at work.
Right.
Now we know that not every institution is that big, but let the big ones start it. Big institutions where you can probably have at any one time maybe 10 women with a baby. They won't have 100 women with a baby.
Right.
It's about 5 or 10. You just need a little daycare so people can just have their baby right there. So what do you think about daycares at work?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it certainly is convenient.
And you will have to speak up a little bit.
Um, it certainly is convenient. And I think peace of mind for the mom because her baby is available. And if the baby has any other need, the mom is still available. Less stress.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen from research studies that it increases productivity at the labor force too, because if they know their child is taken care of, Cuba and other sources have shown us that we know that that's the case. They even have a program like that in Sacramento. So yes, I completely support it.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing how even in our United States that we have different states doing very different things in support of women and mothers and families choosing to breastfeed. I know at the United States Breastfeeding Committee (USBC), they are finally getting a little bit of traction behind the Pump Act. Which I think a lot of us have seen lately in the news, and that's just for the protection of mothers trying to pump breast milk at work to make sure that they're okay and their job will be safe, and they're protected under the laws that are already there in place for them to pump. So that would be amazing if they had the ability not only to pump but to bring their child to work. The stress level alone would be so much better.
I sometimes just wonder that why are we having such a pushback from employers and business owners?
Mm-hmm.
Is it because they are men and they don't understand what's going on?
Hmm.
Are their wives not talking to them? Or are their mothers not explaining to them that if you are an employer and you hire 2 women who have babies, for example, one can be at work in the morning, 4 hours, the other one can come and do the other 4 hours in the afternoon. All of a sudden, you have 2 women, they're both happy, they're working part time, they're taking care of their babies, and they're happy.
Right.
But if you don't put this issue of the woman has the baby in the equation
Mm-hmm.
and have your flexibility in how you organize the scheduling, you're creating problems. Like you want a woman who has a baby to work for 12 hours, or you won't hire her at all.
Right.
I mean, and most of the people who have to work 12 hours, they say you can only work 4 days, 12 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So you have 4 painful days. But if you hired 2 women or 3,
Mm-hmm.
4 hours each, all 3 of them will be happy because they'll be able to work, earn some money, and still look after their baby fully.
Right.
So we, the women, we need to be talking to the men in our lives
Mhm.
because the men are usually in the position
Mhm.
to make changes.
Right.
I don't think men are mean. I just think they don't know.
Mhm.
They don't know the complexity. So, like right now, I was surprised while I was busy talking about paid maternity leave, I started hearing parental leave.
Mhm.
That is another story.
Mhm.
Parental leave is another story.
Mhm.
Maternity leave
Mhm.
is what women who are having a newborn baby need to have
Mhm.
because they are the one directly responsible
Mhm.
for the baby.
Right.
I don't think some people understand what a woman is going through 9 months of pregnancy,
Mhm.
labor, delivery, a newborn baby that anything can go wrong at any time.
Right.
And you want her to go back to work in 2 weeks and leave the baby in the daycare with somebody else? It's 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 heartbreaking.
It is.
The women are working under stress, being separated from this little baby that they just had.
Right.
So we who are breastfeeding advocates, we need to expand the people we talk to include men, young men, all the men. So
Right.
anything we are doing, we have to find a way of including men so they can understand what women are going through.
Okay. Okay.
The other group of people we may want to talk about after talking about employers is the hospital. Oh,
No, we were having a moment. Yeah. Yeah. Well, but you're right. And I was thinking, although yes, we do need the support from our men. There are also some women out there who don't seem to really care much for the needs sometimes of other women. And I think, unfortunately, that has to do with the fact that they feel like it is your choice to both have been pregnant and have this child, and how you decide to feed this baby. And you do have other options, including formula or not to have this child. And so you have to deal with that.
the thing is, somebody has brainwashed a lot of people to think that formula is equivalent to breast milk,
Sure.
and it is
Yes.
not.
It's not.
Right.
Formula is not equivalent to breast milk. Using the breast pump is not equivalent to breastfeeding at the breast.
Right.
These are all a little bit less than what we really should be doing.
Mhm, mhm.
And you know, if you do the wrong thing long enough, you begin to think it's right.
Mhm, mhm.
So, like, if I walk down this street without clothes every day for 1 week, soon everybody will think it's a new style.
That's right. And they'll adopt it.
If nobody stopped me.
I was wondering where you were going with
Yeah.
that.
They say, oh, that's what they now do in Memphis. So, like, this whole
Right.
thing about using the formula, it's been going on for over 100 years.
Right.
The marketing,
Mhm,
the lobbying,
mhm.
a lot of things were put in place. And people don't realize that there was strategic plan
Mhm.
to discourage breastfeeding.
Right. Especially in Black communities.
The important thing you will notice, at least in the Meharry where I work, when I was talking one day, one lady said, oh, we used to have a daycare right here on campus. There was a daycare. So what we are saying now is not new.
Right.
It was there before. Some people took it away. There used to be love for women who are having babies. Some people took it away. All of a sudden, it's how dare she want to have a career and also have children?
That's right.
You want to have, like you said, they say it's your choice.
Mhm.
So, was it not the same society that said, educate the girl child?
Right.
They criticize Africa for not letting girls go to school. Now girls go to school, they get a degree, they get a first degree, they get a PhD, and now you say you're daring to want to have babies?
Family just need to go to work. That's right.
So they're making it difficult. So way men are going to give birth to these babies. And they can do it, but they need help. So somebody like me, for the 6 months that I had my paid maternity leave, I came back. My career position, nobody took it away.
Mm-hmm.
So we've talked about employers and we'll leave that alone. Let's talk about the hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
What are the hospitals doing to encourage breastfeeding? Who wants to talk about that? Because that's part of the village, the hospital.
Absolutely. Well, I'm looking for you all first. Um, as a peer counselor, especially when I worked at WIC, you have an opportunity to ask families and moms, have you had a conversation about breastfeeding with your doctor? And unfortunately, more times than not, it's no. And so then you have to educate them about the fact that, look, this is you and your body and what you want to happen. You need to have not only your plan for breastfeeding but your birth plan together. This is like a wedding. You don't just say, hey, I'm going to get married and then just offer up someone else to work out all your hopes and dreams for your wedding. No, you find a person that you trust that will help you to plan it, and you tell them how you want your magical day to go. And of course, if it doesn't go quite as magical, you still trust that person to do the best that they can do under the circumstances, but you've talked about it. I said, this is just the same way. And so you see a light bulb go off for some of the moms because they didn't realize that. It's just like they offer their body up to their healthcare provider, usually someone under 10 care who they knows covered under their insurance. And unfortunately, a lot of these healthcare providers, in those circumstances, have been so desensitized by our needs that when they get to you, it's just really cut and dry. And then, oh, you're black. She's probably not going to want to breastfeed anyway, so I'm not going to mention that. And it's like, wait, no, no, no. We need you to give us the same attention as you give everyone else and ask us all these questions, because even if we don't want to breastfeed, if you never mention it, especially from a doctor, we don't know how important it is. So hospitals and healthcare providers, of course, we think their word is law. And so if we're not hearing the constant things, not only from our friends or our families, and sometimes we're not even hearing from friends and families, but if we don't hear from our healthcare providers, then, formula be okay, because I haven't heard it from anybody else.
I used to say something in medicine. You have a patient in front of you and you just discover their sugar is 400, 500.
Right.
Are you going to say, do you think you would like to have an insulin injection today, or would you like to come back tomorrow dead or alive?
All right.
Do we give the option?
No.
This is a situation. There's high blood sugar. You need to give insulin. I'm not going to be asking you, do you want it or do you not want it? I'll be saying, we have to give you insulin.
Absolutely.
I'm going to try, and even you may be afraid of insulin, I have to explain to you that it won't kill you. We have to bring this sugar down. Now it's the same with breastfeeding. You're not supposed to ask the woman, what do you want to do? Because you are giving her, it's as if you're trying to tell her that she can do anything.
Right.
You want to feed your baby water, or you want to feed the baby formula or Gatorade. You're asking her, what do you want to do? She's supposed to breastfeed. So your conversation will be, you're about to have a baby. You're meeting her, maybe she's 3 months pregnant.
All right.
And we're going to have a breastfeeding plan.
Right.
I'm going to send you to the breastfeeding counselor who's going to talk to you about it.
Right.
And if the doctor takes that stand where they just keep telling the lady about breastfeeding and teach her, she'll probably naturally do it. But if you ask her that question, you're setting the stage for her to say formula. And unfortunately, that is what the formula companies have done. They have created an environment where even doctors do not know about breastfeeding. It's been removed from the curriculum. It's not there. If you go to any medical school, you hear them teach breast milk is best. Then they spend the next 3 days talking about formula. That's what happens. So it's going to start with but now, while we're at it, we can't wait. What we're going to tell our mothers is, you tell the doctor, I want to breastfeed. You may not, you may succeed, you may not, but I want to breastfeed.
Right.
So that they can expose you to all the training that you need to be successful. So that's how I feel about it. We as the advocates, should be telling our mothers to tell the doctor from day one, I want to breastfeed.
All right. So we're encouraged as peer counselors to be very diplomatic in what we do, and so of course, so I'm like, so we always like, so have you had a conversation about your doctor about breastfeeding? Have you decided how you will feed your baby? You know, to open up conversation, and so with when I would tell my moms about and suggest to them about talking to their doctor about breastfeeding, I'd say, ask your doctor to tell you some more information about breastfeeding. And so some of them would come back and they'd be like, well, he was surprised I even asked. I said, of course they were. I was like, well, what'd they say? And some would have a little bit to say and some would have a little bit more. But you're right. Our doctors aren't very well equipped to be able to present breastfeeding as well as they seem to do formula. And so my thing is at least be balanced with as much information as you're giving about formula,
That's
give
right.
about breastfeeding.
That's right.
That way
That's right.
they can feel that they truly have this choice. Although we truly want them to breastfeed, we want to empower our moms to feel like they have made a choice for themselves, because some of our families have never even seen breastfeeding.
That's right.
And so they're going to need that education and the support from their doctor and their village to be able to overcome, ew, get that titty out of that baby's mouth, or what are you doing?
And that is the worst part of it. That again, we're talking about the village.
Right.
When did the village decide that the breast is a titty? Or whatever they're calling it.
Well, I
When did it suddenly become something
because
else?
breasts became man's. They
Okay,
became their
because
partners.
what is happening with the breast is it was sexualized.
Right. Yes.
It wasn't supposed to be so.
Uh-huh.
We're all sitting down here. All you hear is half of the town doing breast enhancement surgery, and somebody charging $3,000 to $5,000 to make the breast bigger.
Right.
Okay, who suffers the weight of a big breast is the woman.
Mm-hmm.
All the men are doing is look at it.
Right.
You are carrying the weight wherever you go with all the breast. What are we enhancing? The breast was not meant for that. It
Right.
could be used for that after the fact.
Right.
So if I have finished using my breast to do what it was meant for,
Right.
I can use it to do the secondary thing
Mm-hmm.
that it was meant for.
Right.
So again, we are the village.
Absolutely.
So here we are. We've talked about the employers.
Mhm.
We've talked about the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're talking about society in
Mhm.
general.
Mm-hmm.
But now I want to shift to our mothers
Mhm.
and grandmothers.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Oh boy, yes.
mothers and grandmothers. That
Yes.
is still part of society.
Right.
As I started off, I said 50, 60, 100 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
the baby food industry did a very successful job of promoting formula.
Mm-hmm.
So there is 2 generations or 3 generations of women who did not breastfeed,
Right.
and they were not even told about it.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So if a grandmother never breastfed and your mother never breastfed and now you are pregnant,
Right.
who are you going to turn to?
Right.
So we are now trying to talk to the mothers and the grandmothers to say, look, you were given the short end of the stick.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let it happen to your daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's only one person making profit here, and it's the baby food people.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Money.
Right.
That's
I tell my
money.
moms when they come in with their mother or that support person, because you're giving all these wonderful, beautiful facts about breastfeeding, and the grandmother didn't breastfeed, and so I say, look, you did the best that you could do. You didn't know any better. We weren't taught that. So now that you know better, you're doing better for your daughter. So just to feel like, hey, we're not trying to shame you. We do the best that we can with what we have. That's always
Do
been
you
us.
know the example I give?
Well, what?
I give the opioid.
Okay.
We have an opioid crisis.
Mhm.
Where did it come from? The medical profession.
Mm.
They started dishing it out like candy. And how did it happen? Whoever makes opioid tablets promoted it.
Mm.
And they promoted it in such a way that even the doctors
Mm-hmm.
unintentionally helped them distribute it.
Mm.
And then all of a sudden, we're suffering from the opioid crisis.
Mhm.
Some people are being arrested. I have pharmacy friends who are in jail right now
Mm.
as the scapegoats.
Mm.
They dispensed it.
Mhm.
And you allow doctors to prescribe painkiller for 30 days, for 60 days, for 90 days.
Right.
It was a scam
Mm.
in high places, and it
Mhm.
became a crisis. I compare that to formula.
Right.
50, 60 years ago, mothers didn't know
Right.
because the system brainwashed everybody, including the doctors and the nurses, that formula was superior
Mhm.
to breast milk. Now we're trying to undo
Mhm.
that. Can you, something that you did over 50 years, you think you can undo it in 10 years?
No.
It takes a long time.
Oh.
So more than
I-
50 years,
It's
I
like,
used to
it's
tell
like
Tiana,
systematic racism.
I told Tiana when I came to America in 1997, I was shocked that this hospital where I was working,
Right.
nobody had heard of baby friendly hospital initiative.
Mhm.
So America kept that away from everybody. It's only California
Mhm.
started it and they were doing it. There's some strategic states,
Mhm.
but several other states just kept it quiet.
Mhm.
Tennessee finally came out in
Right.
2012,
Right.
2011.
Right.
Finally, that's 20 years behind.
Mhm.
So we're not, nobody's being shamed. We're just finally realizing that somebody put the blinds
Mhm.
and now we are lifting the blind.
Mhm.
We want to breastfeed
Right.
and we want to do our best.
Right.
But so that's it. The hospital, the family.
Mhm.
Now who else is in the village? The husband?
Yeah. So all the partners, because we definitely need their help. Yes.
So what do we say about? I have a lot of young girls among the group that I see,
Mhm.
and most of the time, almost 85% are single.
Mhm.
They're not married,
Mhm.
but almost all of them have a boyfriend.
Okay.
Okay. I got my first baby at 31. I got pregnant at 30, wanted to have children. I was a medical doctor and I was ready. And the so called man who told me he loved me suddenly decided he was too young to be a father.
Mm.
He was a medical doctor, was too young to be a father.
Mm.
But I wanted to be a mother.
Mhm.
So I wasn't ashamed or afraid. So I was pregnant. So an older female doctor invited me to her house. I thought she was going to yell at me for getting pregnant without being married. I said, Flo, you're pregnant and your boyfriend has run away.
Mhm.
A lot of men will be coming to you now. They will tell you you're beautiful. They tell you you're radiant. They tell you all sorts of things, but they are lying. They know you are already pregnant, so you can't be pregnant twice.
Mhm.
They know that you were pregnant for John,
Mhm.
so you can't be seen with them outside. So all your relationship will be indoors.
Mhm.
So they're going to get everything for free. They won't buy you lunch. They won't take you out for dinner. Nothing. And you can't tell anybody you're with them because you're already pregnant. So when they stop coming when you're almost having the baby, you can't complain. Now you will have your baby and some other men will show up coming to disturb you and distract you from looking after this newborn baby that you have and professing love.
Mhm.
Tell them to come back in 2 years' time
Mhm.
when you have finished taking care of your baby. And if you want to marry me and if you really love me, your relationship should be to support me to look after this baby.
Mhm.
Don't try to tell me you love me. This is not the time to talk about loving me. I'm loving my baby right now. I was just looking at this lady talking. And it all came to pass. I can't tell you the number of men who told me I was they knew me before.
Mhm.
They didn't tell me I was beautiful. Now this pregnancy suits you. And since you've just been dumped by somebody,
Mhm.
you will fall for that.
That's right.
Mm.
So I tell the young girls, please,
Mhm.
now that you have a baby, this is not the time for a boyfriend.
Mhm.
You need at least 6 months to focus on this baby. Thereafter, you can have a boyfriend. No doctor should be giving you birth control injection
Right.
a week after having a baby or
Right.
2 weeks.
Mhm.
What are they trying to tell you, that you should start having sex again so soon? with this baby that you have to look after,
Mhm.
there's no need for that depot injection, because if you're really busy looking after this baby,
Mhm.
you probably will not be that sexually active.
Mhm.
So you can use a condom
Mhm.
if you have to.
Mhm.
But why would I encourage a young girl
Right.
to start having a sexual relationship with a new man who is not the father of this newborn baby so soon?
Mhm.
He's just going to wait for you to get pregnant again, then he takes off.
Mhm.
Because he only came to you because he knew you are vulnerable.
Mhm.
So that's what I tell the young girls. What do you think?
Mhm.
So we have to be careful with the husband. The real husband is the
Mhm.
real husband.
Mhm.
Is this kind of boyfriend who is not the father of that baby.
Mhm.
I worry about them.
Mhm.
And we need to let the young girls know that they should worry about such people. Who we want to, whether you marry me or not, you can be in the life of the baby by coming to support me
Mhm.
to look after our baby, whether you marry me or not. That's another, the marriage is another story. But supporting me, helping me do grocery shopping, helping me do the laundry, helping me clean my house. You can support me and my baby, our baby, without marrying me. Give me the little money you can give me if you have. But to just disappear, I think is irresponsible. And we are mothers who raised sons. How did we raise the sons to be so insensitive? So we have to think about that. So I need to see men, young men, older men
Right.
in our discussions.
Right, absolutely. The DC Breastfeeding Coalition says generations of miseducation, misinformation, and misguidance. So, like you said, it's going to take a lot more time and being intentional about what we're trying to do to undo a lot of the damage that has been done to Black and Brown families and women and families. It's going to take some time, but the things that you're talking about are very true. And I think it's good that you're telling letting the young moms know, because they need a big sister, they need a big auntie, and that's why with breastfeeding sisters that are receiving support, it's like we are a tribe, a family of sisters, and our families trying to look after each other. And so I love that we're surrounded by moms and supporters and true family and true moms and friends and new friends, trying to be of one accord in what we're trying to do for our moms and families. And this is just like around breastfeeding, but it deals with so much more. I mean, you've even talked about just family makeup around a new mother. So we get together and we have these conversations around breastfeeding, but we end up talking about so much more.
I was just gonna say that made me think of self-care, Dr. Ukuli, when I heard you speak of that, and I'm not sure how much of that message is being brought to their attention, right? So this idea of discipline to focus on the baby for 6 months. I'm not sure how many of us have time to really practice what discipline looks like, right? This idea of self-care, this idea of focusing on ourselves and being selfish or not being selfish, whatever that looks like, and however we battle that. I'm so grateful that you're sharing that with your patients, because we need to hear that more. And I think specifically because of our race, our class, and our gender, and maybe our non-binary status, we're not hearing those messages as much. So I completely agree with that. And I hope that they learn from you and then take it and pass one. Each one teach one.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
And since the focus today was the village,
Mm-hmm.
so because we can't stay here forever, so the one other group of village
Mm-hmm.
angle to is the school.
Mm-hmm. Right,
The
right.
school. Uh, so by the way, I turned 70 last month, so we might as well say that. So in the 60s, when I was in high school, I was in a boarding school in Nigeria, and they taught us biology, chemistry, physics, English, history, whatever, but they taught us what they call domestic science. In that class, they taught us how to cook and how to clean. But they also had another class they called mothercraft.
Huh.
Yes, it was a girls' school. They taught us mothercraft. I don't know whether there's anybody who was teaching boys fathercraft, but they were teaching us mothercraft. And they were trying, and I don't know whether some of those things they taught me then when I was 12, 13, 14, that sort of stayed with me. Because my mother didn't teach me sex education. My mother just said, don't play with boys. And I was an athletic girl. I was always playing with boys. I didn't even know the meaning of don't play with boys.
Right.
I was like, she said I can't play football with the boys. I'm outside there playing football with the boys. And my mother will come beat me for playing football with the boys. I didn't know there was something else boys do. She didn't tell me, but in school I got to know.
Mhm.
This mothercraft thing told us all these things. And I come to the US and I begin to hear that you can't talk about that in the school, you can't talk about sex education, you can. To me, it looks like, again, intentional. Creating an environment where you have girls who do not know and men who can exploit them. That's the way I see it. Because these are young girls who do not know. You create a law where you say a 14-year-old is an emancipated minor. She can consent to anything. She can even ask her doctor for contraception. Her mother should not be there when she's talking about it. You're creating children who are going to be exploited by men because you're trying to make them ignorant. And you are trying to make them think that they are being, how can you give emancipated minor? Look
That's
at
right.
that big name
That's
for
right.
a
It's oxymoron.
stubborn little girl. That's what the little girl is. Somebody who is not listening to her mother is called an emancipated minor. And you actually make laws to protect them against their mother. I agree. There's a handful of parents who are irresponsible, who maybe neglect children or maybe actually physically or whatever abuse them. That's the minority. We can't make rules based on what a few people do. And now we allow girls to be exploited. So how do we get the schools to teach both boys and girls how to build safe and responsible relationships
Right.
where sex is not the center
Mhm.
of the relationship?
Mhm.
Because I don't think sex should be the center of any relationship, not even marriage.
Right.
So why should it be the center of a little boy and a little girl who like each other?
Mhm.
So how do we go about that? Because I hear the schools don't allow it.
Right.
That should be in the family.
It's
Where-
supposed to be.
I think it's impossible.
Oh no, it should be. And I'm agreeing with you, but
That requires education and maturity of the family to be able to have those conversations. Though.
right.
And I think that's where the disconnect is.
If a son sees how his mom's boyfriend or his father treats his mom, that's the way he will be treating his future wife or his girlfriend.
Mhm. Mhm.
So if there are certain norms, if he knows what he is allowed to do, or if there are certain boundaries where he should stop, that's what he will be later on teaching his own sons.
Right.
I told somebody once, I said, when we were growing up, we were not angels or saints, but when we did wrong, we knew we were wrong. But now you want to do wrong and say it's right. I think that's the problem, because if you're doing wrong and you say it's right, you stand the danger of continuing to do wrong. But let's say in my time, if as a teenager I did get pregnant and everybody made me know it was wrong, it doesn't mean they won't help me. Your mother would help you, everybody, but they make you know it was wrong. Don't do it again. But now you're telling them it's okay, you have baby shower for them, you do this, you make them look everything. She do it again. She do it again. So all of a sudden, between the age of 15 and 20, there are 5 babies. Is that person how? And this is a baby raising babies. She doesn't have enough common sense to know what to do and what not to do with these children. And I think it's unfair on these children that we, the adults, have left them to fend for themselves. They are not equipped. They don't have the experience. They don't know, but we are pretending that they know. Let her make up her own mind. Which mind does a 14-year-old have? about this thing about baby.
That's right. That's right.
So, and I use myself as an example again. I went to school and I was in all the subjects, but the teachers noticed that some of us are good in the sciences, some are better in the arts. Somehow, by the time we get to senior high school, we go that way.
Okay.
And then, if you're in science,
Mhm.
people will be talking to you about medicine, engineering, whatever, the things that go with science, because your natural aptitude is on that side. If you're on the other side, they help you go in that direction.
Mhm.
But if you just leave a child, for example, me, coming to tell my mother, I don't want to go to school, I want to be a dancer. Who told you you know how to dance? Because you did one or two steps? Do you think when you become a professional dancer, you can dance 24 hours a day, 5 times a week?
Discipline.
They think it's easy. They think singing is easy. They think dancing is easy. They think basketball is easy. They think all those things are easy. They are not easy. But we, the parents, we, the grandmother, we, the mothers, grandfathers, we have to make them know certain things are hobbies. And a few people will have an exceptional talent that will make them rise above others. Very few people. The rest of us are going to be normal, office working, hospital working, whatever we are, just regular.
Which is okay.
Mhm.
Which is
right.
fine.
Well, we need those people. We need them.
But we don't show them on
Be
TV.
realistic.
Right.
Yeah,
We
no.
show the other people on TV all
Right.
the time. So I say that to say that we, the parents, when my father said you're going to do medicine, I
Mhm.
protested. No, that was not. I don't like blood. My father said there's not blood in everything in medicine. There are the departments that have no blood. I don't like injection. You don't have to give injection. There are other people. I was just grumbling about this whole thing. Oh, I want to do engineering, whatever. I was complaining.
Yeah.
But my parents just kept quiet. But somehow I ended up in medical school. It was years later I got to know that my father got the admission letter to the engineering school and he hid it. He was waiting. When the admission letter came from the med school, admission! And of course and I went to med school without even knowing that I had another choice.
Huh.
Wow.
And I ended up in med school and somehow I got to see that there's public health.
Yeah.
There's no blood.
Yeah.
There's no injection.
Right. Yeah.
All the things that I was complaining about, it's not even in public health.
Mm.
So, but my parents chose it for me, and I would be grateful to them. But some people will say, oh, parents shouldn't choose. They know their child more than any other person. How can they? I see some medical students when we interview them, they say, I was 3 years old when I knew I was going to be a doctor. I said, oh, stop it. You didn't know when you were 3 that you were going to be a doctor. Who knows when they were 3? Oh, I used to play with the stethoscope. I say, but you also played with mud. So, that whole, trying to say that a little child knows what they're going to be. I don't think we know like that. I think it's how we are raised and trained in school
Mhm.
that will mold us in one direction. So the school, in short, all I'm saying,
Mhm.
the school has a big role to play. I
Right.
don't know how your organization can influence what happens in schools.
Right.
Can you guys think about that?
I'll have to talk to Shelby County Health Department and see if they can help support our Shelby County school system. But that is definitely a bugaboo because, like you said, they are taking a lot of things out of school, um, and they don't seem to be ending up anywhere else. And so, a lot of our children are lost in their own thought of what they think they would like to become.
If you're not going to teach sex education in school, why are you now saying or promoting non-binary gender and all these other things that you somehow
valid.
appear to be
That's
promoting when
Right.
you did promote the straightforward one that
That's-
way?
That's valid.
Right.
That's a valid point.
So how come?
Right.
So if you're saying that we shouldn't teach sex education in school, that nobody should mention transgender in school.
Mhm.
Critical race theory for that.
So
matter.
why are you mentioning that one
Mhm.
and promoting it?
Mhm. So, like we've been talking about, it definitely takes a village, and there are many people in the village that help to support the breastfeeding family. And so we have to uh, make sure to take piece by piece to make sure all of those are equipped with what they need to be able to support this, like this circle of support around the mother and baby and their family, to give them that strong support that they lack right now on so many different levels. And so that's why there's it's amazing to think how much uh, work there is to be done just in the world of lactation, you know, um, to support our families. And so, once again, that's why I feel blessed to be surrounded by such core um, mothers and supporters of this work and friends. And so I thank you so much for joining us today. Before we wrap up, I wanted you to introduce your colleague and friend and talk about the programming in which you all are trying to do here in Memphis so that hopefully we can gain some support.
So I will just quick. This is Dr. Angela Antipova, University of Memphis. We're collaborating. I'm from Meharry Medical College. We are just trying to encourage and support 30 mothers each to breastfeed.
Mm-hmm.
We want to just do all we can to support. It's a tiny little pilot project, but we need pregnant women. We just want pregnant women to enroll with us. We give them a survey to complete so we see their knowledge and attitude to breastfeeding. And then we'll give them 3 information sessions. We are not taking over from your regular doctor or your regular lactation counselor. We just give you 3 information sessions, and then we follow you up 4 times before your baby is 1 year old.
Mm-hmm.
So, Angela, what do you want to say to BSTARS? What would you like them to do for you?
I'm very excited that you guys will be able to help me and my partner, Dr. Ukoli, to meet with pregnant women because you cannot just snatch a pregnant woman just off the street, hi. However much I would like it to do, maybe personally. So we do need your support. And as I was writing this proposal, I was really shocked by the numbers because I love working with numbers. I am a quantitative person, as I describe myself. I like analyzing data and like making, something sense out of this data, to interpret that. So I was shocked when I saw that if you end up having 2 or 5 women into your educational program, and at least one of them will initiate breastfeeding. And I think that's great.
Mhm.
I would really, say and be very proud of, my project if, one woman would begin breastfeeding her baby because of, our effort, because of your effort.
Sure.
And as you all were saying, breast milk is free, it's natural, and that's it's so surprising that some women just simply don't introduce it to their babies. And we all know all these scientific facts, how good it is both for not just for baby but also for mother. And so everybody that who's sitting at this table is just helping to these ladies realize this simple fact. Educating is really, really a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's education is uh, when you empower a person, right? So again, when you do not do something that somebody decided for you to introduce your baby to, to formula.
Mm-hmm.
But again, when you have a choice, and you can make the choice when you have education.
Mm-hmm.
So,
All right.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is so true.
It is. Oh, we had a question that came through as we wrap up. I'm glad I remembered from Christina Burton. She says she would like to know more information on nursing while pregnant and on tandem feeding. So if you could give some information about that.
So this tandem feeding, what does it mean?
Mm-hmm.
Is it
So it seems that she's pregnant now and she is still nursing another child. So we don't know how old the child is, but she's pregnant and nursing, and so plans to continue breastfeeding after she gives birth to the
So
second baby.
what I would say is that breastfeeding is in stages. So somebody had a baby and they were breastfeeding that baby, and somewhere down the line they became pregnant again
Mm-hmm.
and they are still breastfeeding.
Mm-hmm.
I can bet that this baby that is still on the breast is already eating weaning food, either semi-solid or actually eating real food, probably already eating potatoes, spaghetti, and everything. So whatever that baby is doing at the breast is not for food, but just for comfort. So there's nothing wrong with it. Just let the baby do whatever the baby is doing. And when the new baby is born, that new baby is the one that will want to breastfeed 12 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
The other baby can come to the breast whenever they come, and the mother should not be worried. Let them come, and when they put their mouth near your breast and a little milk is there and whatever, and you just say, "Oh, baby, do you want a cookie? Go and get a cookie from that place." The baby will run off happily. They're not going to. But if you sort of say no,
Mm-hmm.
that's when the baby will react because they'll be feeling like rejection.
All right.
But if you, and you can talk to them, you say, "Oh, you can have a little so that baby can have more." You can just turn it to a game.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing wrong with it.
All right. And so some moms choose, depending on the age of their firstborn child, they choose to want to tandem breastfeed. But of course, we know that the milk always defers to the youngest child. And so it's good for moms to know that if the older child's, even like their bowels will change, because if the breast is for newborns, their first baby's bowel is going to be a little runny, and different things. So you'll find that there may be certain little discomforts, and it's still fine for them to have the milk as a mom chooses to do, but that breast milk is going to turn into newborn milk.
Yes.
And follow their cycle of what they need, and so it technically will fortify a toddler, because toddler milk, of course, is very different and not as full of the different proteins and nutrients that a newborn gets. So, like you said, nothing wrong with it, and in fact, it is good in its way. It's almost a way to just confirm for the older child, okay, you're not ditching me. Those used to be mine, and so it's like, okay, I just one little nibble. But as a mom decides to give up tandem breastfeeding to the distraction,
Yes.
cookie or something else, but also lots of love and hugs and breastfeeding on one side and hugs on the other. That way, that older child doesn't feel any different.
That's
all
how
good.
it will be. Because the newborn baby is going to do 8-10 times in the daytime and 3-4 times at night.
Mm-hmm.
The toddler will be fast asleep at night. So we don't think he will be around at night. And soon we'll go to daycare
Right.
or something and won't always be there. But it's just that when that child, he or she sees you breastfeeding a new baby, they're just jealous. So,
Kamathi, how did your girls do seeing you breastfeed a new baby?
They're fine with it because they're used to it.
Okay.
They got breast milk. Well, I'll tell you a story. So Layla is the youngest, middle child now, not the youngest. And so she stopped when she weaned herself at 4.5, and she weaned herself. So she told me one day, she was just like, "Well, I'm gonna leave the milk for the baby because he needs it more than me." That's what happened.
Okay.
And
I can
now
so
they
hear her
see
say
him
that.
nursing, and they want to taste.
Uh-huh.
And I told them that while he was in NICU or whatever, he needs all the colostrum, so they had to wait. So now they're like, he's home. So I told them I will pump some for them and let them taste it. So hopefully Layla won't get back on like, yes,
Yeah.
I'm back. But they're in full support.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's cool.
I think I remember, Mom, when you were nursing my sister, and I think we were down here visiting, and I don't know, just for some reason, I mean, there's 3 years between us, and it wasn't a big deal that you were nursing her ever, but for some reason, I just wanted some out of the blue, and so you let me nurse a little bit, and I think I even I was like trying to draw it out differently, but I got a little bit, and then okay, I was like, all right, okay, I'm good, but I do remember it was sweet. But I was good. I was good. So then I ran off with a cookie, right? I'm good. So yeah, that's how that goes. But it's in these stories of how things are going for our families that we can then share with others to know it's gonna be okay going from one child to two child to three, and it's gonna be all right nursing for 4 years. Woohoo! Yes. So it's in that support that we truly empower and build strong villages. And in that we're trying to break down the systematic things that were done to us 50, 100 years ago. But we can do it because we can. But it's just gonna take some time in the true tribe mentality.
These days, we give some discussion. We have discussions with our medical students, and when we talk about something like this, I want to give them examples that are happening right now,
Mm-hmm.
like the COVID vaccine.
Right.
Look at all the politics that got into that.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine the politics that went into formula and breast milk for the last 100 years? This one is COVID for only 1 year.
Right.
Look at the chaos we have because of politics interjecting. The other example I give them, I say, in your lifetime, you heard people talking about decaffeinated coffee, decaffeinated tea. And we were all trying to go away from caffeine. What do the people do? They created energy drink. They took all the caffeine out of all the coffee and tea and put it in one tiny little bottle and sell it $3.99.
That part right there.
Right
Yep.
in our lifetime,
Yep.
we see them promoting caffeine. And we've known some children have collapsed after drinking that super concentrated caffeine. And it's still happening. Nobody's stopping it. So it's still, all that still rests on us, the parents, the grandmother, the grandfather, fathers, mothers, to protect our children from systematic things that make profit for some people and cause trouble for another set of people.
Right.
So I guess that is the last I will say.
All
Be
right.
careful of those things.
Yes. Well, I thank you, Dr. Flora Ukoli, for joining us. Thank you all. Oh yeah, I switched over. Yay. I just want to say as we close out that as we talk about the importance of breastfeeding, that we also know that there is and has to be in the world we live in space for formula. And we never want you to feel that we are formula bashing or anything like that. But we, especially in our Black and Brown communities, were disproportionately not made aware of the choices to breastfeed and the health benefits. And so that is all that we are trying to help correct. And so we thank you for joining us. Sorry, I'm all in the view of that. We thank you for joining us. I'm going around the table so y'all can see everybody. Yay. All right. Okay. All right. Take care. And until next time. All right. Bye-bye.